Well, carving's all done, so now comes the painting part. Now, when you paint figures, doing Indians of the Old West, you're not going to find too many Indians of the Old West running around today dressed in their native garb. So the best way to collect research materials is to subscribe to art magazines dealing with the Old West. There's art collectors, Western art collectors, Art of the Old West. I subscribe to those two, and they're full of reference materials. Another way you can do it, you can go to galleries and get on their mailing list, and they'll send you things like this. This is a show that John Coleman did at a gallery we visited, and they sent me this in the mail. Right there on the front page is excellent reference material for things that you could put on a buffalo robe. Pretty neat. That's why I keep it. But inside there's other pictures of his paintings, and he's one of the best. And believe me, he does a lot of research, and he can afford hiring models wearing traditional clothes that he can take photographs of as he does his paintings. That's what these artists generally do. Well, I can't afford that. And also, it gives you ideas of how they do their figures. Just they're three-dimensional. Sometimes they'll have a photograph of the front and the back and the sides and everything to give the prospective purchaser a good idea of exactly what's available. This is shown in clay. This is the clay piece. It's not been cast in bronze yet. When they cast it in bronze, they're going to cut this piece all up in different pieces to make the molds. Facial features. Things like this you just cannot beat. But in the magazines, I showed you before, this is my Indian book. Out of these magazines I subscribe to, I go through them, and if I see something that interests me, I will cut out a picture, take a picture of it on my computer, and print it out, lump them all together. But for doing things like dress, to be able to pick out the colors and stuff that you're going to use for your carvings, you cannot beat paintings done by these professional artists, because they've done the research, so you can pretty well rest assured that it's correct. And it's just a resource material. In a little while, I think the same goes for how this artist treated the clothing, the blanket wrapped around him. This wasn't an Indian, but you could get an idea from that. Robes, everything's there. Doesn't have to be a great picture. My printer kind of ran out of ink on some of these, but that's good. Now here, in the next video, probably we're going to be painting the buckskin and his beading designs on his shirt. Well, this is what I'll be referencing, is pictures like that. So let's go. Women, want to know how to do women? Well, you can't beat photographs like this that you can get off the web just by searching around, entering a search criteria, and it'll bring it right up on the screen, and you can find good examples of what you want to do. It's bronze by David Lemon, one of my favorites. We have a bronze by him, but just look at the beauty of this clothing. Just fantastic stuff. We're going to be doing a mail. This guy here soon. So look at this example. Beautiful, really pretty. Just tells you what to do. And you know, my book is just full of examples like this, even pictures of my carvings. There's another one by David Lemon. He's one of my favorite artists. Indian Scouts. It's all in there. All you got to do is look for it, and just keep a little book. Here, I've next marked this page. What for, I wonder? Probably for the mount. I really saw this and I said, wow, boy, that's a terrific mount. I'll have to try that someday. And some people will say, well, that's copying. No, I don't think it is. I'm not out to copy them. I'm not going to reproduce the exact copy of their painting or bronze. I mean, this guy here, I haven't seen any photographs of a Native American who looks like this. This is one of my pieces. There's just great stuff in here. This is also a painting by John Coleman, another terrific artist. I love looking through these magazines and finding new things. But each time I go to an art gallery or something like that, I'll try to, I'll tell them that I'd like to get on their list of the brochures. And they'll send it to you. It doesn't cost anything. They probably think that you're some big high roller that's going to show up someday and buy a painting or a bronze sculpture. And maybe you will. We did once, twice. Anyway, today we're going to do the head. So, here's the colors we're going to use. Midnight blue, licorice, which is black, yellow ochre, red iron oxide, and this is asphaltum. It's a real rich brown, not what you'd see out on the highway. I don't know how they compare asphaltum to a brown when asphalt out in front of our house looks kind of gray. But anyway, and this is a flesh color. It doesn't say flesh, but it's the closest proximity of something I have around here that you could consider flesh. This is called light mocha. I've never seen a mocha that light before in my life, but I've seen flesh colors on people that look pretty close to this here. But don't go out and buy this. Your carving deserves better paint than store-bought flesh. So just forget this. Use this. This will teach you something. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to first wet this down. Now, I want you to watch, excuse me just a minute, let's scratch something here. Watch the color of the wood change when I spray it with water. See it? See that? That's the color it's going to be when you varnish it. So in painting this figure, you have to allow for that color coming through, and it will. Okay? So what is that color? Well, if you drained all the blood from a body, now don't go do this, I'm just telling you if you did. If you drained all the blood out of a body, it would be this color here, okay? Just same color you'd see in probably in your college biology class or high school biology classes of, I don't even want to say it. When we were in Leningrad, which is now St. Petersburg, the Russians had a medical museum across the Neva River that we went over to. And it was filled with fantastic examples of the medical profession and stuff like that. But they had one area that was devoted to the human body various parts of the human body bottled in formaldehyde, and this was the color of all those body parts, because it didn't have any blood in it anymore. So anyway, we covered that subject enough. So, to make our flesh color, considering that this body no longer has any blood, we're going to put the blood back into it. So I'm going to use red on oxide for the blood, yellow ochre for the natural colors, and some brown to darken it up to give a real rich color. And when I'm mixing this, I want to try to get as much color as I need, because I don't want to have to go back and try to match it. I mean, I could, but it would just be easier if I just allowed and got enough paint in my brush to do what I want to do. So we're going to do his face first. So I washed all that color out of my brush, and now I'm going to pick up a little of it and put it on the Indian. Now that's a little heavy, so I'm going to dilute it down. Don't worry about slopping it over on your hair, because you're going to be painting that hair black, which will pretty well cover anything that's on there. On the Caricature Carvers Facebook page, someone will always ask, how do you get a flesh color for your carving? And there will be at least a dozen, sometimes half a dozen, sometimes even more of that, of people telling how they arrive at their flesh color. White plus pink. Everybody has their own opinion. This is my opinion. So I don't have anything against theirs. This is mine. Okay, so he's out in the sun a lot, so the areas of his face that get more sun than the other areas, which don't, are going to be darker. So I'm going to paint his nose darker, because it sticks out there in the sun a lot more than the other areas. I'm actually going to add just a little bit of straight red on there. And being as my figure is wet, all these colors blend together. You still have to kind of blend them out, but they'll blend together better than if you were trying to paint on a dry surface. On his cheekbones, where the sun hits. I'm going to put some red out there on that. And his lips, naturally, they have their own natural color. Don't want to give him lipstick, but you want some color on there. That's darker than brown. The lower part of his face needs a little more color. Now when you're painting, you have to watch for areas like this. See, right here, how light it is right there. That's not caused by the way I'm painting. That's caused by the wood itself. This is the flat surface of the wood, while this up here is where the grain of the wood comes up straight and down like this, but it's coming more at an angle out to where when you put color on it, it pulls all that color down in. Where this, it just sits on the surface, basically. So you have to kind of watch out for that. And by adding more paint to those areas. Okay. Use a smaller brush here. Kind of lost my sun color up here. I definitely want that. And right here, for some reason, I don't know what that is, but it's something that sealed the wood. And I know there's too much red on here, but I'm going to blend it out. Now you don't want that much red on there, so get the beauty of painting on a wet surface is you can blend that out, tone it down a little. Okay, that looks good, like that. All right, now with blue, we're going to give a little shadow to the face. I'm just going to squeeze out just a little bit here. Way too much, but that's all right. We're going to paint around his eyes. The eyelid below the and we're going to give him some shadow here on the side of his face. It's not 5 o'clock shadow, it's just shadow. And I lost a lot of color here, so I'm putting that back. There, that looks pretty good. I'll let those colors cook a little while. Let me see if I can't get the... There we go. All right. So now comes black. Change my glasses here to my cheap glasses. You all have probably saw the movie The Searchers with John Wayne. One of the best westerns ever made. One of John Ford's movies. It's all about well, it's not exactly about the abduction of I can't think of her first name. Quanah Parker's mother. But anyway, Quanah Parker's mother was captured in a fight down in Texas when she was 7 years old. And by the time they recaptured her, she was a mother and had sons and a little daughter. And Quanah Parker, well, he wasn't the big chief at the time. He was her son. And the movie The Searchers kind of pretty well follows along with what actually happened. Oops, there's a spot that I missed. But it does take some liberty, as most movies do, with actual events. But anyway, it's a fantastic story. And that all happened out in West Texas, Oklahoma. The Comanche. They were a wild bunch, I'll tell you, and they did some terrible things. But then the white people back in those days did some pretty terrible things too. But anyway, Quanah Parker turned out to be a very well-respected the chief of the Comanches. He's buried down in Cache, Oklahoma, with his mother. He had him exhume his mother's body from down in Texas and moved up to Oklahoma. And she's buried there with him, with her little girl, at the cemetery at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, along with the other famous Indians who are buried there. Geronimo's buried there, Satanta's buried there, a lot of them buried there. Very interesting story. And then John Ford made a fantastic movie that follows that story. If you haven't seen it, and you like the Old West, you certainly got to take time to watch that movie. It's a great movie, one of John Wayne's best pictures. The fella, well, that movie has so many stars in it. Festus, the guy who played on Gunsmoke, he's even in it. Ward Bond's in there. Great movie. Now those burn lines, they set off the facial features, like around the eyes, there on the cheeks, but they also act as a sort of a, what would you call it? Barrier. Thanks, Judy. To allow that paint to not crawl into those areas that you don't want. Where if they weren't there, this paint would bleed over into those areas, and you definitely don't want that. So that little area there on each side of his cheeks, I'm going to have to get a smaller brush to get in there. Painting takes a while, but the more time you spend doing it, the better your figure's going to be. Judy's watching some. Now you'll probably have to, if you do big areas like this, especially with black, you're going to have to come back later and get these little spots that always show up that didn't get any paint. Holidays, my friend used to call them. Okay, before I paint those other areas. braids. You gotta get in there and get those areas. There we go. There, see, holidays start showing up. You'll try and try and try to get them the first pass, but believe me, you won't be able to. They just show up. Well, yes, I know. Indians, all the pictures we see of Native Americans at that time, braided their hair. But there are instances where they didn't. I read once where when they went into battle, they undid all their hair. I don't know why, but that's just what I read they did. I think it looks just as well that way. And that's just the way I do it. Okay. So that's done. So now what we have to do is wait. Oops. And till the hair dries. See, it just keeps showing up. They keep showing up and you have to keep looking for them. So We're just going to set him aside, not like that. I think I'll set him aside like that until he dries. So that's going to do it for this video today, and we will see you in the next one, which will probably hopefully tomorrow. Okay? So until then, I'll talk to you later.